Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the West Lindsey series. This is one of the 9 districts of Lincolnshire and one of the county's most rural. It has 128 civil parishes. Let's see which one this episode's all about. Welcome back to West Lindsey, everybody. Now, we're on a bit of a mission today because hopefully within the next sort of 5 or 6 hours, I'll be able to connect the area around Caistor, which we've just finished doing, to the area which started with Owmby, if you can remember that episode. We've got a nice run of 6 between the two, so the map will look quite nice after this. There's a playground over there, which I'm about to go and check out, and then we'll take a walk around this place. And this place's name is North Kelsey. The West Lindsey series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop, located at 20 Ropery Road or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. North Kelsey, the first of the 2 Kelsey twins, is situated some 4 miles west of Caistor and 6 miles southeast of Brigg on West Lindsey's border with North Lincolnshire. The larger of the 2 Kelseys, North Kelsey Parish is also one of the biggest in the district, covering not only the main village, but also the hamlet of North Kelsey Moor and most of RAF Caistor. It used to be a little smaller. In 1887, North Kelsey Parish was enlarged by gaining 12-Month Hill and part of Round Farm from Searby come Owmby. Both the village and the parish sit on a branch of the River Ancholme called the North Kelsey Beck. Surprisingly, North Kelsey doesn't have much information about itself online. Mind you, what it lacks in that department it makes up for with some beautiful landmarks. These include a 4-floored brick tower mill built in the early 19th century, which was operated by both wind and steam before being abandoned in 1905. It also has some amazing scenic views of the Lincolnshire Wolds, some brilliantly picturesque properties, including the massive church farm, and a bywell pump which has a little bit of local folklore on the village green. Let's get moving and see what the larger of the Kelsey twins is like. Our journey starts at the playing field, which consists of a small playground and some football pitches. There are some sports clubs in the village, one of which is a bowls club. That's coming later. After allowing a family of ducks to cross the road, we wondered where they were all coming from. This is the answer, from this house, which has a gorgeous tall fountain, which from a distance sounded just like a waterfall. Next is Middle Street, and here is the one and only village pub, the Butcher's Arms. What Pub describes this as the epitome of a traditional village pub, open plan in design with a polished wood bar and overhanging hop vine. Middle Street leads to the High Street, where there used to be another pub called the Royal Oak. On here, Nikki was quick to spot some local produce on offer. The TVI pounds were out, so let's see what we got this time. think they might be the most cheapest eggs we've ever seen, actually. And we've got some tomatoes as well. They were 80 pence, right? And they were 50 pence.
I'm putting £1.50.
Oh, well. Even so, it's a bargain, that, isn't it? A left turn now. Chapel Street is where we go next, and this is named for a pretty obvious reason. Upon it we have a Wesleyan Methodist chapel built in 1898, which is still very much active. It's not this building here, this is just on the corner. Here's the chapel. This is not the only chapel the village has ever had. There was a chapel that dated from 1848 that preceded this, and the Primitive Methodists also had a chapel of their own on the High Street in 1882. Chapel Street is also where Kelsey Primary School is. This is a big school. It serves North Kelsey and other surrounding settlements. It even has space outside it for a school bus, which ferries children in from elsewhere. That brings us to West Street, where we get a look at a small green. Not the main village green, because that's coming in a few moments. This part of the village is generally residential. So I don't like to use the word boring, but this is kind of the most mundane part of this route because it's all houses for a short while until we reach our next landmark. One which you'll have quite an interest in, actually, Mrs.
Really?
Yes, the cemetery.
Oh, cool.
Linden Walk and the top of School Lane bring us to Cemetery Lane. This is the entrance to Little London Farm, a typically Lincolnshire farmstead dating from the 19th century, some of which has been lost over time. Cemetery Lane has its advantages when it comes to nice views. At certain points along it you get a great look at the surrounding countryside. Here we're looking northeast towards Grimsby. And now we're at the cemetery, separate from the main church, which is at the other end of the village. There's an RAF volunteer reserve buried here, Cyril Barrick, who died in 1940. You'll also find the War Memorial in here, a simple Celtic cross which stands proudly in front of an old mortuary chapel, a building which caught the wife's architectural eye. So you folks out there who live in North Kelsey will know better than we do. Is this building now used for storage? We reckon it is. There's also a very nice cremation garden around the edge of it. Any interesting graves?
I haven't had a chance to have a proper mooch yet, but yeah, that chapel building, or chapel-esque building, looks a little bit small to be sort of used for services, so, but it's been kept in good nick.
Can't ask for more.
Probably is for storage or something.
Now we're on Brigg Road, and up here we have some new build houses. The row you see behind the village sign in a moment is Barrett Close, named of course after the airman who we've just learned about. There's a bus stop along here, but don't be standing here expecting one to turn up in a hurry. As we'll see over the next few episodes, public transport is very limited in this part of West Lindsey. A jink right and then left brings us to School Lane again. Here we have the village hall, which is the old school, originally built in 1896 to hold up to 180 children. There's a youth club based here these days. And it's at the front of this where we come across the parish notice board, for which Nikki did the honours. That's 1 Kelsey down and 1 to go. Mark it off, people. 60 left in West Lindsey now. So that little trek down Old School Lane and then School Lane missed this part of the high street out, but before I came here I did a little bit of research to see if there was anything on this stretch. It just seems to be houses and not a lot else, but if there is something down there I'm pretty sure you guys out there will let me know. Now next we've got a very small village green before we turn left towards the church, and there's also a shop here, Central Stores, which doesn't look very open, I have to admit. Central Stores was indeed closed. It was the last remaining general store and newsagents in North Kelsey, closing in 2019. The village post office was also closed in 2008 as part of a series of rural post office closures. The green has a bi-well pump on it. This is actually two pumps, one for filling water carts and one for buckets. This dates from 1891 and its water reputedly had mystical powers. If you drank from this, you lost any desire to leave the village. Hall's Lane next, and this building on the corner is the manor house, which faces in a southerly direction towards the church. It's one of a few magnificent buildings along here. We emerge next onto Church Street, and another example is the Grade 2 listed Church Farm. The central part of this house is Elizabethan, with later Georgian additions. Its south wall is constructed in the same manner as the church tower. Okay, it's church time. So, church open daily, all welcome, but I very much doubt if this is open actually, because it's really early in the morning. Is it open? We're soon going to find out. No, it's locked. Too early in the morning to get in.
Good church, sir.
Absolutely. Well worth a visit, this one.
You can have a look at that doorway around here, I think.
Yeah, if you like. There is a doorway around here. There we go. North Kelsey's church is dedicated to All Hallows, although it was dedicated to St Nicholas until the late 19th century. The church was rebuilt in 1869, although the tower dates from the 13th century. In the 1930s, it suffered minor damage in a whirlwind which hit both Kelsey villages. There's something you wouldn't expect in a quiet corner of Lincolnshire. It has an early stone coffin lid which lies against one of its outside walls. To finish the route, we walked along South Street, where you'll find the North Kelsey Sports Association. North Kelsey Bowls Club play here. North Kelsey also has a mixed tennis league established in 1966. And this big white house on the corner of South Street brings the main walk to a close. This is directly opposite the house which had the big fountain, so it's a left turn here and back to the playing field. Okay, so about an hour later we're back to the car. That didn't take me as long as I thought it was going to actually, which is a good thing. The sun's starting to come out, so it's starting to get a little bit warm, so this might be coming off at some point. We're not quite finished with North Kelsey either, because there's still a couple of things to talk about out towards Caistor, and one of those is the former RAF Caistor. So here comes today's picture bit, and after that I'll meet you at the airfield. On the way to the former RAF base, we passed through North Kelsey Moor, a hamlet where there was once a railway station. The station was opened in 1848 and closed in 1965. The building still stands and it's now a private residence. North Kelsey Moor also had a pub too, which also still stands. This is the Queen's Head and it's been closed for at least 3 years. When it was open, it had guest accommodation to the tune of 5 ensuite rooms located to the rear of the pub. A little further up the road is the former RAF Caistor. This is as close as you're legally allowed to get to it because it's private land. Nikki was able to zoom in with a phone though and get a couple of pictures. When operational, it was used by the RAF as a relief landing ground. It was a grassed airfield opened as a satellite airfield to RAF Curtin in Lindsey. A handful of its old buildings remain, including the concrete bases of 3 Thor IRBM launch pads. Now, to go with these, there's also a rock post out here. I would
under the round thing.
It's not here. No, it's on a different road. But I'm actually not going to be able to get to that because even though it's right on the roadside, it's not on the route that I now need to take because I need some petrol. I'm going to have to go into Caistor for that. So that means going that way. Whereas originally my route was to go that way back towards South Kelsey, but I'm going to have to go that way now, otherwise I might run out of fuel. Anyway, that is North Kelsey, and I do hope you've enjoyed this one. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, nice little village. It's one of those that's got that quiet and peaceful village feel, but without being really tiny. Yeah. Because normally you find it, the really quiet ones are the ones with like, you know, a dozen houses and a farm.
Well, it's funny you should say that because after we've done South Kelsey, which is the next episode by the way, they do get progressively smaller, and that kind of village is going to be coming up very soon.
Yeah, so, but we might get to a village with a dozen houses and a farm and what have you, and it'd be really busy. Who knows?
Well, who knows?
Lincolnshire can still surprise us.
It certainly can. Anyway, that's been North Kelsey, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.